right, welcome again. I'm Rose Palmieri. I am trying to do it all today, which was my mistake. But I am the grant review coordinator for Impact 100 this year, and welcome you to our letter of intent information session. And hopefully I can, I'm still letting people in. Okay. Oh. Impact 100, Women Together, Changing Lives. So today I'll do a short introduction, and then we're joined by Helene Herbert from Grants Plus, who will talk about tips for writing grants. And if everybody could mute, that way I'm not hearing an echo. And I think I can mute all. There we go. And then I'll come back and I'll talk about our process specifically, overview of the content, and then what happens when you submit it. And we're recording this, so if you have a colleague that wasn't able to attend, we'll get this on the website in the next day or so. Also, this presentation is already on the website, and our letter of intent is also is already live. So I know one person has done a save continue. Okay. There we go. Impact 100 improves lives by continually funding transformational grants that make a lasting impact. I do want to say I'm also joined by Janet Collins and Carolyn Beezer, who are also board members with me, and may also help us answer some questions later. So Impact 100 was founded in 2001 here in Cincinnati, and in the 21 years that we've been around, there's 50 other chapters around the world that have gotten a group of women together and created a collective women's giving network. In total, all the impacts, which are individual organizations, have invested over $50 million in their respective communities. And then in Cincinnati, we have, I'm sorry, people keep joining.
Rose, why don't you make me co-host and then I'll do all the admitting.
Okay, sure. How do I'll make a co-host. Perfect. Thank you, Janet. Yes, okay. We've donated over $6 million within our region. So the way our model works is we have at least 100 women donate $500 or $1,000 every year, and we are constantly recruiting. We wait till we get $100,000, and then we get applications from organizations such as yours, and this is the beginning of our process. Once those applications come in, some of our members join committees, and they actually review the applications. Some of those letters of intent applications are asked to submit a full grant application, and then we review those, and then from those we do site visits, and from those we select finalists. And the number of finalists will be dependent on the number of grants we give. There's no guarantee in any given year, although I do know we have enough money for 2023 to do at least 2 grants, I believe. But and then we select our finalists. All of our members vote on that, and then we obviously award the grants. And 100% of our members' dollars goes towards the grants. We obviously have to fundraise. We do have some administrative expenses. So here we are in October and November. We're doing our information session. Next week, we have a Q&A session. I think it's Thursday. I think it's on Thursday. I have a slide on that later. We also have a panel of our previous recipients who will share their experience. And obviously, the letter of intent is open. So letter of intent is due December 15th at noon. I will repeat this 100 times today. And I strongly advise you don't wait till December 14th to submit your application, because sometimes there are glitches in computer systems, which creates all sorts of havoc. So again, December 15th, and I will repeat this a number of times, our letter of intent is due noon Eastern time. Then in January, we will know how many grant dollars we have, because our membership is on a calendar year basis. And then our committees, our teams of members form, and we start reviewing the letters of intent. We take a few weeks to do that. And then we notify you all, anyone who submitted a letter of intent, whether or not we were requesting that you submit a full grant, or we thank you for your efforts and come back next year. Then in March, the applications would be due. And in April and May, we review those grant applications. We do a deep dive into the finances. We do site visits, which is your opportunity to meet with us in person. In June, we announce our finalists. And then in September, we gather together with all of our members and we select the recipient. Okay, I'd like to introduce Helene Herbert. Helene, hopefully, I know you're on the line. I saw your name there.
Yes, I'm here.
Terrific. From Grants Plus. We partner with Grants Plus for the last several years as a way to help you all write the best proposal possible, whether it's to us as a funder or to other funders. So take it away, Helene, and hopefully I'll advance these in unison. So
sounds good. I'll try to like nod or something to give you a little clue to hit the go. So hi, everyone. Welcome. My name is Helene Herbert. I am Assistant Director at a company called Grants Plus. If you don't know me, I am based here in Cincinnati. And quick background about myself, I have a background in the arts, background in classical performing music. I worked in the arts and fundraising for over a decade here in Cincinnati. And I've been at Grants Plus for a little over a year. Grants Plus, as you can see, is the nation's most trusted and experienced professional grant-seeking firm. We have helped our clients raise over $250 million in the last 15 years. And we work with our clients on all kinds of grant-related opportunities, whether it's finding opportunities, guiding your relationships with your funders, building strategies for building funding relationships, writing compelling grant proposals, and so much more. So a little bit about who we are. We're also spread out across the nation now. COVID definitely helped with the whole virtual presence. All right, so I'm just gonna jump right in on this and talk you through today just a couple tips and tricks on writing a really compelling proposal as you get started on the Impact 100 journey. So first things first, what is your ask? You can hit the next slide. Clear ask. A clear ask, 2 to 4 sentence summary of your proposal that anyone can understand. Clear ask is the framework of your proposal. From that, everything else should be built around it. So what makes your ask clear to the person who, or people who are reading it? It should have that simple, clear thesis statement, if you will, or sound bite. Think like an introduction or the concept of an elevator pitch we've all heard so much about. It should demonstrate what you need, why you need it, who you're helping, and how you're helping. It should be and then this whole clear ask, as I said, should be a framework for your proposal. It should be reinforced throughout your proposal. Conveying your request in simple and clear language demonstrates that you know your topic, your audience, and the need, not necessarily in that order. So the components of a clear ask, what are those, you may ask? Start with identifying the community need. This should be the urgent need that has to be addressed now. In the case of many of you, it might be a dual need. People need good jobs and the country needs more craft workers. Fill in the blank for your own organization. So what activities will you do to address this need? These should be directly tied to the need, the activities of your grant period, and addressed, fully explained and addressed throughout the narrative. Who will benefit? The population you serve should match the need you've identified. Sounds kind of obvious, but it's still something you really want to think about and clarify throughout your proposal and in your ask. And you want to know how many people will be served, at least your best logical estimates. And then what will be the results? This can include your short-term outputs, your longer-term outcomes, medium-term objectives. It should be specific to individuals or to your community. And if appropriate, what larger systemic change or conditions will result. In addition to this, what's not on the slide, you need to include what are you requesting and what is it going to pay for. If this was the only portion of the application that a potential funder planned to read, what would they learn? Be sure to include the amount you were requesting, as I said. So remember, clear is different from short. We're going to go over this. I'm going to give lots of examples. Clear is different than short though. So on the next slide, we have an example. The Achievers Academy seeks funding to grow our after-school connections program, which provides multiple opportunities for many teens to learn and grow. This is an example of an unclear ask. After-school program does not say what the purpose of the program is, right? Multiple opportunities, not very specific. Many teens doesn't identify any kind of estimated number or range or who these teens are or where they live, where they come from. And it doesn't specify how much you're asking for and how much you're going to use. So on the next slide, we have a reminder of the ideas that I very quickly, because I have a lot of slides, talked through. This worksheet we have and will be able to provide you. I think we might be able to drop it in the chat now. If not, it will definitely be on the website later. But Grants Plus has developed this worksheet. We use it as grant writers and as strategists and as consultants when we are working with our clients on writing new proposals for them. So I can tell you this worksheet is incredibly wonderful. Highly recommend taking it. It's got the prompts for you and then blanks, you can just fill it in. So here we go. Same program. You're gonna work on developing an ask for it. Where do you start? Okay, prompt. What is the need in the community? The need is that hundreds of students in our service area are at risk of dropping out of school before graduation. Simple, clear, direct, right? What are you going to do to address this need? Provide after-school tutoring that uses both in-person tutors and online learning tools. What do you need to address this need? You need computers, curriculum, and training. Who will benefit? 75 high school students. And what is going to be the result of this? Improved academics and increased graduation rates. So you can see how just by breaking it down, you get a very clear and simple together ask. So here on the next slide is an example of what a clear ask is. And I am going to read this to you for, it takes a little time, bear with me, but I will read this to you. So the Achievers Academy provides after-school tutoring for 75 public high school students that the district has identified at risk for dropping out. Studies have shown that at-risk students who receive hybrid in-person tutoring with online activities perform better than those receiving only tutoring. This $15,000 request will improve the academic performance of students by allowing us to provide hybrid tutoring for the first time through the purchase of an online curriculum, 75 Chromebooks, and training for our 3 in-school tutors. Everything I needed to know right there, right? Same ask, but all of the elements of that are there, are easy to read, simple. I can remember this as I walk away. So now you understand your ask. You've done this exercise. Fast forward, you're going to start building your proposal. Writing tips and tricks right here, writing a strong proposal. Many of these may sound familiar, refreshers never hurt. So when you are writing a strong proposal, the purpose of the grant, of the proposal, as we all should know, show how your work advances the funder's mission and creates the change that you are trying to achieve and that they are looking for. Explain to the funder what problem exists, how you're solving it. And then of course, the who and the how. And then throughout this proposal, you're going to give hopefully you're giving the funder confidence that you are the best organization to address this problem, right? And then through that, you will explain exactly what you will do. And ultimately, hopefully you're moving your idea, your proposal, your project to the top of that list. Elements of a strong proposal, we're going to go into each of these more in depth, plus a couple two extra little bonus ones that I've added. So, but like the graphic, give you a little elements of a strong proposal. So for the first one, a strong proposal is complete. Complete means exactly like what it sounds. Finished according to the instructions. Avoid copying and pasting section to section within the application. Funders don't want to read the same sentence 4 times. Read the instructions, understand what the funder wants. We're all busy, we're all slammed. I've been there many times throughout my career. It's so easy to skim and to just jump right in, but grants, the people reading them really want you to have answered the question that is the question within that section. So again, this above all things, I'm going to say this again, follow the instructions. Even if they seem counterintuitive, repetitive, silly, follow the instructions. Answer the questions, provide all required attachments, pay attention to details like page limits, font sizes, character word limits, margin sizes. Some portals may not let you enter in paragraphs if it goes over the character size. And then you have to spend that last precious minutes before submitting trying to rewrite a paragraph. It's not fun, I can promise you that. Many funders also outright state they will not review incomplete proposals. So don't give them any reason to disqualify you based on technicality. Don't waste your own precious, very valuable time, right? Complete is really the bare minimum. All right. So the next one, a strong proposal is error-free on the next slide. Free from misspellings, typos, and grammatical errors. Check your punctuation, check your spelling. Make sure your math adds up. Do you have math? Do you have numbers throughout? Check it. Check to make sure it matches if you've referenced it in the budget. Editing notes, ideally have a second person read it as time permits. Ask them to read it if you don't want them to read it for proofing. Ask them, or for content, ask them just to proof it. Ask them to have a second, just to get a second pair of eyes on it. I can tell you firsthand experience of submitting hundreds upon hundreds, if not thousands of grants in my career. Your brain, human brain, is genius, and it will fill in the blanks for you. And you may accidentally delete a the or an and or an accidental sentence or a very important Oxford comma or something. Your brain will fill it in because it knows it's supposed to be there. So have fresh eyes. If you can't do this, there are plenty of ways to change it up for how you're reading it. Print the document, edit with a pen or pencil, read it backwards from the end, one paragraph at a time, like start with the last paragraph and then work your way up. You can zoom in comically large. You can ask, there is a function in Word now where there's a narration and you can have it read paragraphs out loud to you, etc. The free from contradictory information, also very important. Make sure program names are consistent. Don't call it the after school program in one section and then Success Scholars Tutoring in another. Make sure staff titles are consistent. Don't call them the after school outreach coordinator in one section and then just the outreach coordinator in another. And of course, acronyms, we'll touch on this later, but make sure acronyms are fully explained, especially the first time you use it. And numbers, of course, I mentioned this, but make sure they are consistent and that they match the budget. Keep in mind, and I'll probably say this again, but I've sat on many grant review panels as well, and I can tell you, you cannot assume that your reviewer is going to be from your community, neighborhood, region, etc. We'll get back to that though. All right, so the next one, a strong proposal is clear and logical. This is where we're coming back to that theme. Grant reviewers have to read a lot of proposals. Grant reviewers are very often people who have other jobs, their careers, they're volunteering. They're reading a lot. So just remember to put yourself in their shoes. Make it easy for them. Make it clear. assume they won't know your industry, or as I said, your neighborhood or your community specifically. Don't make any assumptions that they know what you're talking about. I watched an entire grant panel reading a proposal and they were all like, what is Blink? Because the grant proposal was from Cincinnati and kept mentioning this big festival coming up. And they were like, what is this? I was like, oh, when you don't have that context for what this is, it loses a lot of its, like, this is going to be a really cool part of Blink, and you don't now have that context. So yeah, they're not going to reach for the dictionary or Google to help make sense of something. They may not. So make it easy on them. Be kind to your readers. Make your narrative complete so they don't have to flip back and forth to figure out what your point is and what your, that's the simple and the clarity. Explain any acronyms you use, as I mentioned, and language should be precise. Avoid run-on sentences and go for fewer words when possible, not just for character counts, but because it forces you to be clear, right? Remember middle school. Remember middle school. Every, especially introductory paragraph, has your clear primary point in the first paragraph. For the Impact 100 LOI, I know you can do this. You can use headings and subtitles. You can help use formatting to break something up in smaller chunks to make it easier to read. Can be done with judicious use of line breaks even, and headers in plain text online applications. Let's see, here's a good test. I've got a good example of simple and easily understood. A client's elderly mother learned English as a second language. Our client will have her mother read excerpts of what she's written, and if her mother can't understand them on the first read, she'll rewrite the section. Make sure that these poor people who are reading hundreds and hundreds of grant applications can get it, I think, is the key takeaway from that. Okay, so for the next one, a strong proposal is engaging. No one expects a proposal to be the next great American novel, right? This is not a work of literature, but you want to keep your readers engaged. Use active voice, make your organization and its work the active player. You really create, there we go. Use that creation, that connection with your reader, and incorporate stories. A good example before we go to the next one of active voice, tutoring will be provided 5 days a week, or our expert tutors will provide tutoring every school day. Now, all of a sudden, your organization is the active player in it. It is making that happen. Okay, so for the next one, it's persuasive, right? On the next slide. Yeah, on the next slide. A strong proposal is persuasive. Remember that different kinds of people are going to be reading your proposal. So you want to appeal to both logics, facts, data, history of success, and emotion. And we're going to dig into this in a moment. But logic, fact-based case, clear data helps you convey the urgency in your plans, in your qualifications. But emotion, the real people who you're serving, who you're helping, whose lives are being transformed, the impact you're having in your neighborhood, and how you're going to continue to change lives. For the next one, a strong proposal is persuasive continued. Here's an example for Impact 100, just a couple notes I came up with as I was thinking about Impact 100 directly. How are you going to make a lasting difference? How are you going to address systemic issues? Not just Band-Aid on, a symptom. How are you going to be sustainable, and what is the impact? Things to keep in mind as you keep going and as we get through more Impact 100 proposal stuff later. So a strong proposal is tailored. It is tailored to who you are writing to. Maybe you can pull language from past grant proposals, but you need to make sure that this is tailored to, in this case, Impact 100. Directly connect what you are doing and what your project is to what they are looking for, to their mission, to their interests. How are you going to advance this? And this can be explicit. This can be as direct as, much like Impact 100, or blank example, much like the XYZ Foundation, we believe every child should be able to read by first grade. or our environmental advocacy efforts will help advance the ABC Foundation's mission of leaving the next generation a cleaner, greener planet. Direct connection right there. Even when you're using template language, be sure to tailor it as much as possible. I said, just don't ever just cut and paste, tailor that. For tone and approach, tailor that again to who you're writing to. If you're writing to a government proposal, if it's a government grant, it's gonna be a bit more formal. It's probably, in my experience, gonna call for more quantitative data, less personal stories, more statistics. However, family foundation and individual funder, they may want to know more about those individual, the human beings that you are serving rather than the data. And then these are the two I promised that I was adding on to that lovely chart. A strong proposal in 2022 addresses DEI, DEIA, JEDI, whatever your acronym is in your organization. This is what this is a key part of proposals right now in our world. So grant makers, as I said, they're increasingly interested in funding organizations that advance DEI. So specific to why we're here today, Impact 100 has a focus on an equitable, thriving community for all. You're going to want to show that you understand where and what the problem is, and that you're a part of the neighborhood that is solving this problem. Community involvement. How do those you serve have a voice in what you're doing? On the back end internally, what is the diversity of your organization, of your board, of your makeup? If you have not achieved it yet, but it's something you're moving towards, what's your plan? But either way, show how you are incorporating all kinds of different voices and the voices of those with stake in the neighborhood, in the group of people, into your decision making and planning. And something that is an absolute forefront of what we at Grants Plus are focusing on is relook at the language you were using about those you serve. It should be inclusive and person-centered. And person-centered language means choosing and using words that recognize and refer to individuals first and foremost as people. This demonstrates respect for each person's basic humanity. It emphasizes their unique traits, strengths, and worth. And then the final one for this is a strong proposal recognizes the service ecosystem. So many grant makers want to know the work they're funding complements the work of others without duplicating it. Who in your community is doing this work? Are you complementing your colleagues in other organizations? How are you different? Is there a client pipeline from your organization into others or from others into you? What partners do you have in the community, et cetera? Be aware of your community and who's around you. Kind of the summary of that one. All right, and for the next section, compelling stories. Here we go. We talked already a lot about stories within this and bringing out the personal aspect of this. But first, we must give data its due. It has a place, it's important, and many funders still are very, we still expect solid data. So the pluralist story is not data. Data and stories work together. Data shows needs and results. They show the facts. And then stories show the heart, and you need both. So why data fails us? Here's a paradox of the human, and yeah, we can go to the next one. Here's a paradox of the human mind. Our compassion and desire to help people diminishes as the number of people affected grows larger. So sit with this for a moment. This is why stories matter. If we were all pure creatures of logic, we're all Vulcans, this wouldn't happen. But our brains get overwhelmed. And while we don't have time to get into it today, there are plenty of studies that have shown over and over and over that a single compelling story will drive the heart more than harrowing statistics do. Okay. Here's an example. The death of one man, that is a catastrophe. 100,000 deaths, that is a statistic. Key point of this, data has no heart and we can become numb to it. Numbers at the end of the day are numbers on the page. So we tell stories to make data come alive, right? We can go to the next one.
My fingers slip.
Oh, it's fair. And I know some of these have the like feeding in one. So, all right. So reality that we have, we know they want data. All our funders want data, but they need, even if they don't realize it, they need stories to fill their hearts. A strong story can provide that arc to follow in your proposal that keeps interest and shows your data in context. So tell your clients stories. Tell a story so that the reader wants to find out what happened next in your, work this into your narrative. Frame the client's journey with the client's journey that illustrates the steps of your program and the change it creates. Frame this to show someone's journey through your programs. Use a real story, use a composite, make sure you change the names of those who participated, but use these stories to show the change, to really help us, all of these people reading your proposals and anybody involved, show us the change that your programs truly make. And then for the next part, there's also your own story. There's your organization story, your mission, your history, and your major programs. All of these should be included. These are a key part of your story. And then the elements of a good story. What makes a good story? These concepts on the slide here, inspired by a book called Made to Stick by Chip and Dan Heath. So we've adapted their concepts for grant writing in particular, but we recommend this book for anyone who wants to dig into this topic a bit more. The idea here is that certain traits can make an idea or a message sticky and memorable. So in this case, elements that make a strong story include being simple, credible, surprising or unsuspected, relatable, and emotionally impactful. So I'm going to go through each one of these, and I don't have a slide for each, so I'll just gonna talk a lot on this slide. So within, just so you know, caveat or disclaimer, you may not get to all of these within a single story, but we want to give you a quick toolkit to break down. Simple, already touched on a few times. Important because it lets you quickly demonstrate your core idea. It's focused, and it will convey why the person you're writing about, your organization, intersected. It's about the person and the organization and when they came together. It's credible. Stories need to be believable, just like quantitative data. Luckily, client stories feel credible because they're based on real life experiences and are therefore true. Surprising is a little bit more tricky. This one may not fit, but if you have some kind of surprising twist in it, the reader, are more likely to remember this story that was told. Relatable should be as relatable as possible so that the reader can see themselves in the story, can make that heartfelt connection. Part of this also is because if it is relatable, it helps the reader fill in the blanks and conjure those vivid images in their mind as they are reading it. When people see themselves, the more they remember, the more impact it will have. And then finally, emotionally impactful. Remember earlier, 1 death is a tragedy, 100,000 is a statistic. Humans relate to stories emotionally and not always logically. So emotion therefore helps you, the reader, helps people see the importance of that idea. It helps on that human level. So you want to inspire the heart and the mind. Bring in your quantitative, but bring in your qualitative as well into your proposals. All right, grab the reader's attention. We've all seen grant and appeal letters that lead off with a story, right? There is a reason for this, and it's not just because fundraising professionals like to be derivative. It shows a dramatic or surprising example of the need. You know, it connects the story. It connects the story to your work. So I've got an example on the next slide. I am going to read this out to you for my own sanity. Wherever it says college name, I'm going to use UC, only because I have a master's degree from there or two, and it's easier for me to read this all out to you. Every morning, Monique's alarm wakes her with its shrill beep at 6 a.m. And the hour before her 3 kids wake up, she finishes any homework assignments from the full load of classes she's taking at UC and gets ready for her busy day. On her schedule, working a 4-hour shift at her part-time job and attending her anatomy and physiology class at UC, a required course for the nursing degree she's pursuing. As a single parent, Monique will also shepherd her children through the day, getting them to and from school, supervising their homework, preparing their dinner, and spending quality time with them before tucking them in at night. On good days, everything works well. On more challenging days, those with a sick child, a car problem, or an issue that keeps her late at her job, Monique struggles to make it all work. There are a growing number of women like Monique, single student parents who are juggling their college dreams with the demands of children. More than 25% of the students at UC are single student parents. Hundreds of our students face challenges like Monique, and the UC Parent Resource Center helps them overcome these challenges by offering specialized academic counseling, access to wraparound services, etc. So as you can see within the end of that story, we connected a real person to a larger statistic. This is not an isolated person. Her story is compelling. She's not isolated. There is a systemic problem and a bigger need. So as hopefully you have seen through that first example, the client's journey can be about a story arc that helps describe and define your work. What was the person's like before they came to you? What made them come to you? What services did they use? How did they use them? What change did you create in their life? And what is their life like after leaving your program? Okay, so for the next example, all right, 5-year-old Grant was having a tough time at school. Although just a kindergartner, he'd been acting so aggressively in class that his teacher feared he might hurt another student. One day, after being sent to the office, he began flipping over chairs and pulling things off the walls. Clearly, he was in need of support. Fortunately, XYZ organization was there to leap into action. XYZ organization, school-based services program, embeds mental health staff at schools throughout the city and provides crucial services to children and families. In Grant's case, XYZ organization school coordinator, the first point of contact for school-based services, quickly became involved. School coordinator Chelsea, already on site at the school and trusted by school staff, was invited to come to the office and work with Grant. First, she knelt to speak to Grant at his level. At first, he tried picking up objects to throw, but Chelsea calmly removed each one from his small hand and asked him to breathe deeply with her. Chelsea then began a discussion with Grant, steering him toward a more productive way of communicating. Chelsea has continued to work hand in hand with school staff to improve Grant's situation. They reassessed his daily schedule and approached his education more holistically. The result? Grant has learned to catch himself when he starts to lose his temper. He's better keeping his cool. He's still working on moderating his behavior, but he's more focused in class, and in turn, his classmates are better able to learn. This story is just one of hundreds that play out each year in our community schools. All right. I had some time for questions, but I know there is the broader Impact 100 presentation and discussion as well. So Rose and Janet, I will defer to you if you want to just move ahead with the directly Impact 100 related things.
Yeah, let's do that. And then because then I can drop the share screen and we can see everybody's faces and read easier. So thank you, Helene. That was awesome. Again, Helene's presentation, along with my presentation, is already posted on the website. I've separately taken just Helene's presentation plus that handout she was talking about, and we've placed that also on our website on a separate section, all under how to apply for a grant. And it's there now. And so I thought if people wanted to share Helene's insights separately from ours, you could do that.
Fantastic.
Okay, there you are. And
Yep.
info@grantplus.com and www.grantsplus.com, an excellent resource
That's
for
it.
grant writers. So, okay, thank you again, Helene. So our guidelines are you must be a 501c3 or a 509A nonprofit from the Internal Revenue Service. They'll issue you a number, a 9-digit number, I think. Applications can be for capital projects or programs, new initiatives or project startup, or technical assistance. We don't accept grants that are endowments for current operating expenses, partisan activities or programs, completed projects, individual churches, indigent care subsidies, travel or loans or money to individuals, and funds cannot be re-granted to other nonprofit organizations. We want you, you're the fiscal responsible person, and we will interact with you. So, our application, which again is online, and the deadline is December 15th at noon. Obvious things such as your organization name, address, phone number, year founded, that is very important identification number. I had an application last year. The individual completing it must have supported more than one organization because she accidentally put the EIN in. And when we went back to verify it, come up and it's a different name, and we corrected the problem. But double check that if you work across multiple organizations, you've got the right EIN for the right organization. Your annual operating budget, and we've broken that out into 5 categories. It's a little drop down. If you have a website or any social media handles, we're interested in identifying those. There's a paragraph for your mission and vision statement. Obviously the LOI, the person filling out the form, name, title, phone number, and email, as well as your executive director, name, title, phone number, and email, if it's different. And please, because our process is obviously it's November and we won't know till June if you're a finalist. And that's over 6 months. If something changes, people go on maternity leave, people get sick, people retire, please notify us and we'll change our records, because it's the information you put in this application that tells us who we're going to contact if we have good news or not so good news. Obviously, your project or program has a title. We want you to select a grant focus area. Our 5 grant focus areas are culture, education, environment, recreation, and preservation, family, or health and wellness. There's on our website, we have some brief descriptions of what those mean. They're pretty obvious ones. You select it. You can only select one, but you select it. You might be an environmental organization that has an education program. You are certainly welcome to submit it under either environment or education, your choice. It doesn't, we just want to be able to categorize the applications. The request can be for capital, a program or project, technology, or a new initiative or project startup. All monies must be spent within the 10 county areas: Dearborn in Indiana, Boone, Campbell, and Kenton in Kentucky. Say that 3 times fast. Adams, Brown, Butler, Claremont, Hamilton, or Warren in Ohio. You may be headquartered someplace else, but the money has to be spent within one or all of these 10 counties. Did I mention we have also on our website, we've copied and pasted the application so you can review it before you even go online. And some of the boxes where you fill out have a character limit, and I referenced them here. They're also on that reference sheet that you can find on our website. I find that it helps me when I write to see what's up ahead. I'll also, and I'll mention this again, you can actually prepare the descriptions in a Word document and copy and paste it into the application. That way you've got spell check and so forth, that you can leverage Word's capabilities for. So a summary description of your project or program, a description of how your project or program addresses the community need, who your target population is, how you're going to define and measure success, and any other information you care to share with us about your project or program. The budget. What we've tried to do this year and last year was, at this point in the process, categorize the expenses into 9 categories, 8 of them specific, 1 of them is a general one. But what we find is, for the most part, expenses fall into one of these 8 categories: salary, benefits, fees, equipment and maintenance, supply and software, so on and so forth. And then if you've got a really odd duck, there's an other category, but your expenses must equal $100,000. So please check your math. If there's no expenses for a category, you just enter 0. The system will tell you if you leave an item blank. I have tested it and I have made that mistake, and it tells me when I make that mistake. So in the other category, the other expenses, oops, sorry, one more, okay. You can briefly describe what that other is. And then there's a question: if the total inputs do not equal $100,000, please correct. Actually, that's a statement. And then there's another box where you can, an opportunity for you to identify additional information to support your budget. And then what the total cost of your program and project is. We know that some people may need $250,000, of which they're coming to Impact for $100,000. Excuse me. If you need funds over our $100,000, then how are you going to secure those funds? And then the last question is, how will the project or program be sustained? And then we have our acknowledgements: agree to use funds within 3 years, confirm that your executive director and or board president are aware of the application, and then any declaration of current or pending legal conflicts. Now, you have an opportunity to start your application and hit save and continue throughout the application. If you hit save and continue, you will get a screen that looks like this, and you will get a link, and then it'll ask for an address. The address you type in here will get this link. This link was specific to something I did. It'll be different for everybody. But if you type the address wrong, it's going to go to the wrong address. Now, I will get copied on it, but if we can figure out who sent it, so you can imagine how many of these I might be getting at any given time. So just double check that you've got the correct email address. You will get sent the email with this link. Once you have the link, you can go back as many times as you want until the deadline of December 15th at noon. If you're ready to submit, you hit the submit button and you get a message that looks like this: thank you for applying, yada, yada, yada. If you've got any questions, my generic email address is grants@impact100.org. Once you submit it, you cannot go back and audit it or make any adjustments. So if you realize that you submitted the wrong budget, or you will get an email confirmation of your submission, and as you're reviewing it, you might see that the paragraph you copied and pasted in there was the wrong paragraph. You have to resubmit the entire form, and we will take the most recent, the last one you submitted. There's a way for us to, there's a timestamp on each of the applications, so we'll know if, we'll see that your organization submitted two, and then obviously we'll take the one, the last one, the one most recently submitted. Okay, so to apply for a grant, you go on our website, www.impact100.org, click on apply for grants. There's a little drop down, click on application process, and there's a big I think it's a red or blue box that says letter of intent online submission form. Again, you can do a save and continue. And at the prompt, enter your email to receive the continuation link. And you must return to this link in order to continue the LOI. Otherwise, you end up starting over a new one. And in case I haven't said this enough times, I want to make sure I didn't double forward. Yeah, the applications are due Thursday, December 15th of 2022 at noon Eastern time. And again, we will accept the most recently submitted version if you happen to accidentally have to submit a second one because there was an error in the first one. And I will say this also 100 times, don't wait until 11 o'clock on December 15th to submit your application. Technology is technology, and sometimes things happen on your end, they happen on our, if it's on our end, we'll extend the deadline, but you know, things happen. I had a situation where the person's web internet connection was down on that day, the deadline, and you know, we didn't make an exception, but you know, if we make an exception for one, we make an exception for everyone. So if we leave it open for one, we leave it open for everyone. But again, we're a group of volunteers, and so we set this deadline, and we've got some auditing that we do, making sure everything is correct. So we appreciate it if you do your part on a timely basis. Again, www.impact100.org, apply for grant. I also recommend, in addition to obviously going back and looking at Helene's presentation, we have a frequently asked questions section on the apply for a grant. One of the misconceptions people have is we don't fund operating costs unless it's associated with the project or program. So as an organization, we want you to be able to fund yourself, but we will fund your project and operating costs associated with that, including salaries. We welcome collaborations between organizations. However, if you do have multiple organizations, one has to be the fiscal responsible, and that's the employer identification number that we will use, and that would be the partner organization. If you make it to the grant cycle, we would require financial information from all the partners. And as I said earlier, there's a document on the website that you can download that shows all the sections and how many words per section. If you want to, create a draft in a Word document and then copy and paste it into the application, that's perfectly acceptable. And one of the things Helene talked about was have an objective third-party review your application for understanding and language, acronyms, and such. You know, we all have a habit of using acronyms that are familiar to us, but not others. So again, you want to avoid that because our members come from all walks of our community, and they may not be familiar with your acronyms. Okay, December 15th, 2022 at noon Eastern time, letters of intent are due. Sometime in middle to late January, we will announce how many grants we will actually award in 2023. That should just say February 14th, not late February 14th, my mistake. You will get a letter from us, either asking you to apply for a grant or thanking you for your effort and to apply next year. And then we'll have some training right after that. We haven't set the date yet. March 14th, the grant applications would be due again at noon. There will be, like we said, there will be training on that application. Between April and May, we do our site visits. June, our finalists are named. And then in September, we have our annual award celebration where our members select our grant recipients. And again, we don't know how many grants we'll be able to award next year, but I'm pretty certain we have at least 2 right now. At least that's what I remember. So, okay, I am going to, I'm sorry. I'm not, we have a Q&A session next week. You have to sign up for it separately. You can go on our impact100.org events site. So after you listen to us today, you've gone on and tried to apply and have questions, that's what this session's all about. Or if you're somebody who's watching this on video and you have a question, please try to join us next week on November 10th, which is Thursday. And then on November 17th, which is the following Thursday, we have a panel of our previous recipients who will share their personal experiences and tips and tricks and such. And again, you have to register for that separately, and then you'll get the Zoom link. These are both the Zoom events. And you can email me at grants@impact or our administrator at administration@impact, or go to our frequently asked questions on our website if you have any questions. And I think that's it. Share, impact, whatever. Okay. And I am going to, oh, there we go. I'm going to stop sharing. And what do you think, Janet? Do we take questions in the chat? Would that be easier, I think?
We have gotten questions that we've been responding to throughout the presentation,
Okay.
And everybody has been able to see most of those.
Okay.
One that has been more private is whether or not we fund organizations who are startups and don't have a history of financial information. And the answer that I have provided is yes, we have done that in the past, but we would need to have justification for why long-term stability is, pretty much a given, right? So however long you've been in operation is not a criteria if you're making a transformational impact and you have a good sense of how you're going to support this organization long-term.
Okay. Were there any other questions you wanted to talk as a group?
I don't know. Did anybody see any of the answers that they wanted to ask? Any further questions? We had a question about, where should a specific type of expense go? And I made the point that put it where you think it best fits, but then there is a spot at the end of the budget thing to write in maybe some explanation of what you put where if you feel like it's needed.
Yeah, that's a great answer. I'm looking at this technical assistance cover things like pre-development funding to hire an architect firm to get the ball rolling. I would put that maybe under fees more than I would under technical assistance. But again, under other, you would explain what that was for.
Rose, we do have a question about money that's in an endowment. We have money in an endowment, but we don't want to spend it. So how do we think about that related to whether or not they are deserving of this funding?
So again, at this stage, what we're looking for, our focus is mainly on the project or program and the impact to the community. If you make it to the grant cycle application, we will be requesting 3 years of financial data or however many years you have. And we will go into more we will into a deeper dive as to how you sustain your organization, how much operating cash you have, and so forth. So the endowment information would become available then. I don't think that we've ever. I mean, we've had some very large organizations receive grant from us, and I'm sure they have large endowments. But endowments aren't necessarily, everybody. I don't want to make a qualitative answer because I just don't know. We don't expect you to spend every penny you have before you come to us, I guess. No. Is the question. I mean, the answer that I think you're looking for.
We also have a question about if there's another source for funding for a project, or if the project has been partially started but halted due to COVID or staffing or whatnot. Do we fund partial projects? Do you want to answer that one?
Yeah, we wouldn't fund what you've already spent, but if it's a partial project, so you're renovating a building and you were able to put up the drywall, the plumbing, but not the drywall, not the flooring, and so forth. So you come to us for the flooring, the drywall, but we would not pay for the plumbing because the plumbing's already installed, and in theory, you've already spent that money. That answer, I think that would.
Yeah, and a lot of times, if it's a portion of a project, many of the applications will identify specific compelling part of the project,
Yeah.
a kitchen, or 3 or 4 residential rooms, like very specific parts that have a specific impact or outcome.
I'm taking the time now to read the questions.
There is a question about if we needed to add a part-time staff person to finish a project. Rose did say that we do fund salaries if the salaries are going toward an expansion or a new project or a capital project that is going to be making a big impact.
Right.
But I also think it's important that there's a way that we see that part-time staff person, if it's going to be ongoing, is sustainable through other funds coming up.
Any questions for Helene and her presentation? Helene, sorry.
While you're thinking about that, we do have a question. How specific would you need to be about expenses such as upkeep on low-income housing?
So again, not understanding the project, but so you're talking. If I think of upkeep on a low-income house, any house for that matter, you're talking about maintenance costs, labor costs, material costs, and we have categories for that.
I would say too that in the LOI part of the process, it's a little more general, and we'll get a lot more specific if you're invited to apply for a full grant.
Again, we have a session next week. If you think of 10 questions that you can't find the answers to on our website.
Oh,
please.
Before you go, we have a couple new ones.
I know. I see that. trying to fill the empty space, right?
But this is a really good one, Rose. Can the budget include 2 separate projects that support our overall mission? Startup costs for a new project and then technical assistance for an unrelated development project.
Again, my initial answer is sure. I mean, but you've got to make the compelling case that it all comes together to support your mission, and together it's transformational.
I think that's a key point. We do $100,000 grants for a reason, and that is to make a significant transformational impact. And there are a lot of organizations that do smaller grants. But so just think hard about parsing it into smaller pieces, because it might dilute the impact that you could possibly make.
Yeah, when we go through our grant review committee training for our members that are reviewing the letters of intent and reviewing the grants, we really talk about how the impact can be deep. A small group of people, a small area in a city, versus kind of a wider spread impact over a larger area. And I think it's important to keep it clear and concise.
We've got one last one. Can incentives for participants be included in the budget? Gas cards or bus passes?
Again, based on history, yes. Again, if let's say the example Helene used about the after-school program, and obviously I'm only remembering pieces of it, but maybe there was a subway card as an incentive to attend that class for so many sessions, and that's part of the budget. And yes, because it's a small part of a broader objective of delivering high school graduates from this, low income area. I think that's what her example was. Now, if it's only bus passes, what's transformational about that? But if it's part of a broader thing, I think, yeah. Again, December 15th at noon Eastern time is our deadline. And I highly recommend not waiting till the last day to submit it. It really.
Rose, we have another question. What successful sustainable funding have you seen from past recipients? So can we give any idea for how do people talk about sustaining their transformation into the future? Can you think of an example?
Yeah, so a couple that come to mind, and again, I have to be careful that you don't try to replicate what I'm saying. This is just for example. So sometimes programs need to be proved in order to get government funding. So by us funding this startup, so to speak, program, they can then justify the success and leverage that to get government funding. So that might be one sustainability. Another one might be where they actually create revenue off this program and then can sustain it by themselves. Again, don't. Those are the two that pop into my head right now. But can you think of any, Carolyn?
Well, I think some of them come from the normal development efforts that they would have after they did the proof of concept.
Yeah, the one thing we don't like to see is because of all the publicity we get from being an impact finalist, we'll get more money from other people. Don't put that down. That's a bad thing. And David Hood asks, so it's December 15th. Yes, 2022 at noon.
And you can always look on our website and take a look at our past recipients, and that can give you an idea of projects that we have funded.
Yes. And at the nonprofit panel on November 17th, which you have to register for separately, which you can do so on our website. That's the sustainability question would be a great question to ask one of our past recipients as to how they addressed it. So you hear it from the, no pun intended, the horse's mouth.
Hmm. You can see that we are somewhat reluctant to be prescriptive because it's really all about your custom program and the impact that you're making. So there's not real extremes of, yes, we do this and no, we don't do that. It's really, the answer to everything is really, it depends. Okay, Rose, we're starting to have people fall off. So
okay, that means we've done a great job. Again, if you have questions and you can't make our session next week, just send grants@impact100.org the question, and or check our website for our frequently asked questions. If we get a question that we haven't covered before, we'll add it to our website Q&A frequently asked questions section. And good luck to everyone, and I appreciate your attention, and go Bengals, huh?
Cool.
Thank you, Helene. Thank you, Janet. And thank you, Carolyn, for helping me out today.